Hi everyone! Last time that we read The Parker Inheritance, Candace and Brandon had solved 3/4 of the puzzle, and they had just ripped open the Ada Marie Perkins painting to find the fourth clue. So that's where I'm going to start up again, but I know that when I was reading yesterday, some parts of that might have seemed a little confusing, because in the book, they actually write out what they're kind of thinking when they're solving this. So I thought maybe I should show you this page right here. And if you want to go back and pause and kind of read through this to see where their thinking was at, that might help you understand some of what we read yesterday. But otherwise, I am going to start back up again in chapter 44. No, we're close. He stuck the note to the envelope in his pocket. Quick, let's get this back up. After taping the paper in place, they returned the frame to the wall. It was a little crooked, but they didn't have time to level it. That note, it sounds familiar, Candace said. But it wasn't in the letter, was it? Brandon snapped his fingers. It's like the clue in the Westing game. He's telling us that we have to find the fourth, they said at the same time. Candace rubbed her eyes. It's the fourth clue, she continued. I knew we had to solve it. Maybe there's something in here that we overlooked, Brandon said, spinning around. He took off toward the trophy case. We should check the championship trophy. There's no way we're breaking that glass, she said, following him. As he scanned the trophy case, looking for a way to open it, Candace kept repeating the fourth clue in her head. She loved all. She loved all. Every other clue is tied to a number. To math, she said, pacing in front of the trophy case. Clue 1 led to Euler's number. The second clue led to pi. The third clue told us to add them up, so the fourth clue has to lead to a number as well. It has to... She came to a complete stop. Brandon frowned. Candace? She looked at the aluminum bracelet on her arm, then slipped it off. Love. The answer had been there the entire time. Love, she said. It means 0 in tennis. It's a score. Brandon's mouth dropped open. Then he spun around and pointed to one of the paintings above the trophy case. The painting of a tennis match between black and white players, where neither had yet to score. So if love is 0, then love all is 0-0. He looked back at her. That's what they call it, right? Love all? She nodded. Come on, let's grab a chair. They pulled another chair over, then Brandon used it to climb on top of the trophy case. It wobbled underneath him. There's a bulge underneath the tennis court. I think there's something sewn into the painting. Outside, Candace heard 2 claps, Tori's signal. They had just reached the end of the hallway. Hurry up, she whispered. Here, he said, as he pulled down the picture and handed it to her. Don't wait for me. Candace placed the painting on the table. Brandon was right. There was a small bulge in the canvas underneath the green of the tennis courts. How am I supposed to open it? She asked. Break it. He made it off the trophy case. I'll try to stall Miss McMillan. As he rushed out the door, Candace quickly ran to Miss McMillan's desk to look for something heavy to break the glass. She heard voices in the hallway. They were close. Finally, she ran back to the table and flipped over the picture so the glass was facing down. Holding it in both hands, she raised it high above her head. Behind her, she heard Brandon and Miss McMillan enter the room. Brandon, I appreciate the offer, Miss McMillan was saying, but I don't think... Candace, what are you doing with that picture frame? What's going on? I'm sorry, she said. Then, with trembling hands, she brought the frame down against the corner of the table. Miss McMillan may have screamed. Candace wasn't sure. All she could hear was the cracking glass. She hit it again, trying her best to break the glass right above the tennis court. By the time she'd flipped the frame back over, the others had reached the table. The glass had shattered in multiple places, including the area by the tennis courts. The canvas had ripped as well. They could make out a small glint of silver behind the green paint. Girl, you better explain what's going on right now, Miss McMillan said. Look, Brandon said, pointing at the flash of silver. Do you see it? Frowning, Miss McMillan leaned closer to the painting. What is that? One way to find out, Tori said. She picked up the box cutters from the table and handed them to Candace. Be careful, that glass is sharp. Slowly, Candace began cutting away at the canvas. It wasn't lost on her that she was destroying a tennis court, just like her grandmother. As strips of canvas fell away, they could finally see what was underneath. It was a key. Candace carefully pulled the key from the picture. Where is the First Lambert National Bank? She asked, reading the text engraved along a number. I've never heard of that bank, Tori said. Have you? She asked Brandon. He shook his head. Enough, let me see that. Miss McMillan took the key out of Candace's hand. Well, it used to be a local bank. It was bought out a few years ago. All the accounts were transferred over to Spirit of Independence Bank. You mean the one on Main? Tori asked. Miss McMillan nodded. Last I heard, they kept safety deposit boxes there, which is what I assume this key unlocks. She placed the key on the table beside the torn painting and shattered glass. But before we get into any of that, now would be an excellent time for you all to explain exactly what in the world is going on here. Chapter 45. James Parker, 1999. A young man with short, spiky hair knocked on James Parker's office door. I said I didn't want to be disturbed, Parker said as he ate his lunch and read the newspaper. An unopened can of Dr. Pepper sat on his desk in front of him. This was his 5th executive assistant since Miss Holliday had retired. They were all horrible. I know, sir, but no excuses. But Miss Washington said, Wait, who? James Parker dropped his fork. It bounced off the desk and fell to the floor. Siobhan Washington? Yes, sir, she's on the phone. She put the call through immediately. James Parker wiped his mouth and took a deep breath. His phone lit up in front of him. Siobhan? He asked. His voice was so hopeful. Hi, Reggie, she said, but she did not sound like Siobhan from 1957, or even from 1986. The voice on the other end was ragged, raw, and tired. Are you sitting down? She asked. You should sit down. There's something I have to tell you. 2 days later, Parker pushed Siobhan Washington's wheelchair across the National Lawn in D.C. She could still walk, but she tired easily. Plus, Parker liked taking care of her. He had wrapped 2 blankets around her legs before getting out of the car, but she still felt cold. Her old bracelet was too big for her wrist, but after being away from it for so long, she refused to remove it. She wore a warm knit cap that hid her balding head, but Parker only saw the woman he had loved for most of his life. They came to a stop. The Lincoln Memorial sat ahead of them. The Washington Monument stood at their backs. You're staring again, she finally said. I'm sorry. He turned away. No, it's okay. I like it. She smiled as their gazes met. I always loved your eyes. So gray and stunning. Some say they're cold. Yes, but not when you look at me. She patted his hand. I have a riddle for you. Are you ready? He arched his eyebrows, surprised. Sure, go ahead. She cleared her throat. It was so much raspier than before. Here goes. I am larger than 3 and smaller than 4. To make me your food, I need a little more than a simple vowel tacked on to my ending. What am I? P.S. I'm still winning. He laughed. The last I checked, I had the lead. Didn't we have a conversation about letting your girlfriend win? She ran her thumb over his knuckles. Plus, I needed a way to make it rhyme. So do you have a guess? Parker repeated the riddle in his head. A hint? He finally asked. It was one of your favorite desserts. I'm going to read it to you again. I am larger than 3 and smaller than 4. To make me your food, I need little more than a simple vowel tacked on to my ending. What am I? And my question for you today is if you can solve the riddle.